Synth TV. Hey everybody, CatSynth TV, and today we are looking at Euphoria, a phaser effect Eurorack module from Dreadbox. If you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you'll know we love phaser effects here at CatSynth. We did a full review of Arturia's Phaser Bitron a while back. We'll put a link to that up at the top. Euphoria is part of Dreadbox's Chromatic Series of Eurorack modules, each of which comes in its own bright color. The Euphoria's yellow goes quite nicely next to the blue of the Strymon Starlab. Unfortunately, the white lettering on the yellow is a bit difficult to read, but don't worry, we'll go through all the ins and outs for you. But before we begin, I'd like to ask you to please support this channel so we may bring you more synthesizer and other cultural content regularly. Links to merch, Patreon, and Ko-Fi are posted above and in the description below. All right, let's dive right into it. Euphoria is an 8-pole phaser. It has controls for feedback and manual sweep of the phase. It also has a built-in LFO that can be used to sweep the phase automatically, like on a typical phaser pedal. It has audio inputs for Eurorack voltages, as well as a low voltage input for things like guitars. There are 2 outputs, one fully wet output from the phaser and one mixed with the dry input signal. Now what separates this from a typical phaser are the CV inputs, which give it more degrees of freedom within a modular system. We have CV control for the feedback, manual sweep, and LFO rate. There is also an LFO output, so you can use Euphoria as a utility LFO for other modules. We currently have the input connected to a sawtooth oscillator on our trusty Arturia MiniBrute. Bring up the feedback and start manually sweeping the phase. Crank the feedback all the way up. Now it's fun controlling it manually like this, but we can also use the LFO. Bring in the LFO by increasing its level and its rate. I also recommend setting the manual phase in the center to begin with. If you turn the rate on the LFO all the way up, we start to get an FM type effect. If we want the frequency to change with pitch, as it does on FM synthesis, we can connect the pitch CV from the MiniBrute to the LFO frequency. Let's see what happens when we do that. Cool. Now, of course, in addition to the internal LFO, we can use external CV sources to modulate the phase. I'm going to use this after Later Pique module, which is currently set to generate an envelope triggered by our MiniBrute. Connect its output to the manual CV input. Whoops there. And set its CV level all the way up. Now, the Pique has a ton of different CV generators. For example, it has an LFO of its own with different waveforms. We can also bring up some other more advanced function generators. I'm going to pull up what's called a bouncy ball envelope, which sort of bounces up and down as it decays. We can use the internal LFO at the same time. Now, of course, there is nothing stopping us from taking the LFO output and connect it to the manual CV input, even while it's already being used for internal modulation. Now let's try the Euphoria with some different sounds. For example, I'm going to use the Universal Audio Electra 88 that we reviewed a few weeks ago. We'll put a link to that right up here. We can route the audio from the Electra 88 into the Eurorack input of the Euphoria. And let's hear what manual sweep sounds like. Cool. Let's bring in the LFO. Increase the feedback and LFO level. Tweak these settings just a little bit. Oh yeah, you know I can just keep jamming out to that. But we can add some more expressivity by sending the Electra 88 output to the FolkTek Synethesthesia envelope follower, and then using its CV to control the manual sweep. Audio output from the FolkTek goes to the input, and the CV envelope output goes to the manual sweep input. Turn down the LFO. turn down the CV amount slightly, and bring back in the LFO. The envelope follower can be a bit persnickety, especially with chords. I would recommend putting a slew on its output before going into the phaser. But for now, let's just jam out a little bit more. We hope that you've enjoyed this look at Euphoria and have some ideas of its musical possibilities. To find out more, please visit dreadboxeffects.com and check out the description below this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to CatSynth TV.